I just wanted to give you a few notes of how the meeting is going to run. We have everyone muted right now and cameras turned off just to make sure there aren't any interruptions and we can focus on our speaker and presentation. There are several times throughout the presentation that we will be turning the chat on for questions. And then towards the end, we will turn on the chat again and also let folks raise their hands if they would like to ask a question, and I can unmute your microphones. So with that being said, I'm going to pass things over to David Vaughn and his team.
Afternoon, everybody. We appreciate you all joining in for this afternoon's session. This will make the 12th session that we've had thus far, even from a state tour for 10 of those out in the local regions in your areas, and now doing this virtually as far as introducing folks to ePermitting. So my name is David Vaughn, and I'm the Division Director for the Division of On-Site Wastewater for the state for what's currently known as the Department of Health and Environmental Control. In another 5 weeks, we'll be transitioning over to a new agency that'll be named Department of Environmental Services. So please take note of that. When we do, we're going to give you some email addresses at the end of the presentation, and we'll also tell you what those will change to in the coming year. But for right now, they'll stay the same for about 12 months and have 2 options. So why are we here today? We're here to talk about this new electronic permitting system that we're introducing to you all here to get you on board. We introduced this to the public in January of 2023. So everybody that needs to apply for a septic system has to do it through this platform called ePermitting or electronic permitting. It was made to fit all of the environmental programs with the agency and is currently in place with almost everybody. However, it's a little different depending on which program you're working with. So we've got a pretty intense program here with the amount of information that we're working with, the amount of permitting, the amount of approvals, and now the licensing functionality we're going to turn on. So once this is ready and you've got your account set up and are in the system, you will no longer receive notifications from finance through the mail like you currently do. There won't be any invoices to mail back in. None of that will be the same. It will be through this platform. It'll notify you electronically through your email, and you can pay online right there in a timely manner and try to make it a little bit more efficient and easier on you. There will still be an option to send things in through the mail, but it's a very, very rare occurrence that we're going to pursue that and have somebody else enter it manually for you, okay? One of the fears in working with folks out in the regions and listening to their concerns and questions about this is everybody here today, unless you're with a friend, has a computer or access to one. And you've got an email address set up if you are notified from this electronically. We also sent mailings out to every licensed contractor with the department. Now, it's got to be that way. However, if your business is not set up to go to electronic and you're still doing paper and don't intend to get a computer for your business, we'll still work with you and we'll take care of that separately. You just have to contact us through the information that we'll give you, and we'll work that out together. But it's not the normal. That's going to be an isolated case from time to time. So I just want to make sure that people understand that if you don't have the ability to sign up for this system, the world's not over, but you don't have the choice not to sign up for it either and to get into the process. So I know it kind of sounds like I'm talking both ways, but I want to express the sincere opinion that we'll take care of those who just aren't there right now. Everybody else, just like every other county in the state and a lot of other state agencies, we're catching up to the way society is now and how we do our business. So I'm fixing to turn it over to Mrs. Emma Wyndham, and she is our senior e-permitting consultant for the Bureau. She's going to walk you through this step by step and the processes for getting an account set up and what is going to be pertinent to you and your licensing category here. She'll also show you how to get continuing education units or CEUs entered into the system. That will be a requirement in just over a year from now in 2025 when we go to it. I will speak to that after she's done, and we'll go into CEUs until you don't want to hear any more of them. But here she's going to tell you how to upload them into the system. So questions about where do we get them, how do we get them, what can we get them, just save all of those. And when she's done with her presentation, I'll come back on and we'll have a conversation about that. We can talk about some things going on, and I'll give you an open opportunity to ask questions about anything that's on your mind, even if it's not related to e-permitting. We'll take the time to accept those questions. If we can answer them right now, we will, so that everybody can hear it. If not, we'll be able to answer them at a later date. And we'll also give you the opportunity, if you need to contact one of us one-on-one, that you just don't want to put it in this forum or got another question or not sure about it, you can contact us directly at any time. We're always here for you. We're here to help, not here to hurt. And we want to make sure that we're doing things as best as we can and make process improvements and efficiencies where we can. Okay, so we want to hear from you all along the way. This platform is going to help us communicate much, much better as an agency to an entire licensed entity out there. Okay, so without further ado, you can see Mrs. Wyndham here on your screen. I will let her take it away.
Thank you, David. Okay, so as David said, I'm Emma Wyndham. I am the agency's senior consultant for e-permitting for Bureau of Environmental Health Services, or in fancy way of saying that, for our regional offices. And I essentially act as a liaison between our regional offices, our implementation team for e-permitting, the regulated community, some of our customers, and the developer of this database. So trying to make sure that we have smooth transitions as we bring programs online into ePermitting. So today I will tell you all a little bit about some of the basics. So as David kind of already alluded to, ePermitting is what its name suggests. It is the agency's electronic permitting database. We began migrating programs into ePermitting in 2017. Some of those early programs were OCRM, which is our Ocean and Coastal Resource Management, the Stormwater Program, the Agricultural Waste Program. So if any of you are also familiar with some of those other permit types, you may have been using ePermitting for a little while now. It seems like it's been both a short time and a long time that we've been migrating programs into this database. We want to make sure that, as we are bringing programs in, that we've got it set up to function best for them. And once we get them in, we want to provide them with some support to make sure that it's functioning like we thought that it would. So on-site wastewater is one of our more recent programs to be migrated into the database. We migrated them in early 2023, back in January of last year. So we've had almost a year and a half under our belts. And as you all know, the process for applying for a new septic system used to be handled entirely on paper. Now we handle that entirely through the database, through ePermitting. So from the time you apply for a new permit to the time that you are issued an approval to operate, you've got your system in the ground and you're ready to use it at your new house or business, whatever it may be. So the current process for licensed contractors, for septic contractors, is the same whether you are an installer or a pumper hauler when it comes to renewing your license. So right now that process is very manual. Invoice documents are generated at the beginning of each month, and those are handled by our finance department, where they mail out notification to you all that it's time to renew your license. And currently you have a couple of payment options. You can pay by phone by calling finance and paying them directly over the phone, or you can go through our website, sc.gov, or you can submit a paper check. Once that payment is received, that license is then renewed and issued to you via mail. So if you have any unpaid license renewal fees, we have late fees that are generated at 30 and 60 days. Again, that is done manually currently, and letters are mailed out at that 30-day and 60-day mark, letting you know that a late fee has been added to your account because your license renewal fee has gone unpaid. If that renewal fee is not paid within 90 days, you'll be notified, again, all manually by mail, that your license could be terminated if you fail to pay that fee. So what is the new process going to be going forward? For both licensed installers and pumper haulers, it's going to look exactly the same. And we're going to now transition to handling this process through ePermit. So you should have all gotten a letter in the mail or by email. You may have gotten it both ways, that would invite you to set up an ePermitting account if you did not have one already in existence. and to add your license to your account by becoming what's called an authorized user on that license. And we'll go over that letter in just a second, but I know there were some people at yesterday's meeting that did not get their letter in the mail or by email. If you are one of those people, at the end of this presentation, I will give you my contact information. Please reach out to me and I can find it in the database and get you an updated copy. You know, we may need to update your mailing address or email addresses that are on file. So if you didn't get it, don't fret. I can find it. Just talk to me after. You'll have my contact information. But in the new process, you'll be getting notification through ePermitting when your license renewal fee is due, and then all of the late fees and that 90-day termination notice will be handled through the database. As long as you have your account set up to notify you by email, you'll get an email as well, not just that notification in the database, and we'll go over how to do that in a little bit. And then you have a couple of payment options through ePermitting. You can actually pay directly through the database online, or you will still have the option to submit a paper check. And I will show you all that process as well as we get into some of the demos in the database. Then when it's time to issue your new license, we'll have an internal review inside the database, you know, to make sure you paid and met any other requirements for renewing your license. And then you'll actually be issued that license through the database. So there won't be any more hard copies mailed out. You'll be getting them through ePermitting. So here's the letter I referenced that everybody should have received. We sent those out by mail back on, I think, around May the 1st, 2nd, somewhere around there. And then you all should have gotten an email notification too with the same exact information if we had an email on file for you. And that was sent out on May the 8th. And it would have been an auto-generated email from ePermitting. On the first page of the letter, it just basically goes over our go live date for this process, which is July 15th. And it encourages you to set your account up by a certain date in ePermitting. I think we said June 1st. So if you haven't started setting that account up, please go ahead and try to start. And the reason we want you to get it set up a little bit early is because I'm here as a dedicated resource to help you. If you're having issues with setting up your account or either accessing your license once you do have that account set up, but I cannot help 1,500 individuals come July 15th. So go ahead and begin working on getting that account set up so that if you're having issues, you know, you can let me know or let someone on our ePermitting team know that you're having problems and we can get you situated. So on that first page, it also reviews what kind of functionality you will have within the database. That's just a fancy way of saying the ways that we are going to be communicating with you in the database and some of the items that you're going to be submitting. So you'll have the option to pay your fee. You'll be completing a few forms depending on what type of contractor you are, what type of license you have. And you'll be getting, if you're a pumper hauler in the future, if you have inspections, you would be able to access any of those inspections through ePermitting as well and see all of your different permits and licenses through the database. So, and that's a fancy way of just saying these are the things that you're going to be able to now do inside of this database. So on page 2 is really the meat and potatoes of how to set up your ePermitting account. At the top of that page, you'll see that there's instructions for how to actually set up your account if you don't have one already. And then in the middle of that page, we provided you with a verification code, and the font is a little bit bigger and is bold, and that is unique to your license. So when you get your account set up and you go to what we call claim your license or claim your site, you will enter that verification code, and I will show you how to do that in just a few minutes. Then there's some instructions on that letter at the bottom. If you want anybody else at your business who may have an email, and maybe you have an office manager or somebody who helps you more with the ePermitting side of things or the paperwork side of things, there's some instructions for how to add additional users to your account at the very bottom of that second page of the letter. So we will jump into the database and I will show you guys what it looks like. So when you log in for the first time, now I will say if you have not set an account up, that is a 2-step process. So you will navigate to the website, our external ePermitting website, and create your account, and then it will send you a verification email. So you will have to follow the link in that email. Then it'll ask you to set up your security questions, and then your account is set up and you're able to log in. So that process can be a little lengthy. So just be on the lookout. If you have not set up an account yet, it is a 2-step process. So you'll have to follow that verification link and then set your security questions. Just giving y'all a heads up. But once you get your account set up and you log in for the first time, it'll look very similar to this. The color scheme would be a little bit different because this is our testing environment, but it's got to be set up pretty close to how you're seeing the screen right now. So from your home page in ePermitting, if you are going to claim your license or add your license to your account, you are going to navigate to add site, person, or organization to your account. And you're going to click this gray box. Because you are already licensed through SCDHEC, you're going to select the option that says it has been registered with SCDHEC. And then you're going to navigate to the second section here, enter verification code, and you're going to click this box. And then that unique code that's on page 2 of that letter, you will enter that here. And you enter it exactly as it is with the hyphens and in all caps. And then you click submit, and it should let you add it. You should immediately see your license reflected on your account. So you'll navigate back to your home page, and you see that I've got a license here added to my account just to be able to show y'all today what it'll look like. And if you navigate to your dashboard, that will show you anything that is due under priority. That's anything that's due pretty immediately. Usually you'll see these pop up under your priority notifications if they're due within 7 days. Or if you are familiar with the process of applying for a new septic system, some of you may help your clients. If we have requested any kind of corrections on an application, a lot of times those will pop up under priority items, that you need to address right away. Then you'll notice that you have an upcoming tab. So that's anything that's due in the future that may not be necessarily available for you to work on yet, but just kind of putting it on your radar that it's upcoming. You need to be prepared to submit these items. Then you have an as needed tab, which would be for you guys. We don't have anything right now, but if there was a certain form that we felt like you were submitting on a frequent basis, but it's not something that we're requiring you to do on a routine basis, so once a year or twice a year, you may see a form pop up here that just makes it easier for you to find it and submit it as needed. Draft is anything that you've started working on, but you have not submitted to us yet. You would see that popping up here. To be signed is not really anything that y'all need to worry about. And in process is any form that you've submitted that is sitting in DHEC's court and we are actively working on it. So it's letting you know you've submitted this to us and you can always open that form if you have any here. We'll have some coming up as we work through these forms. But as far as paying your fee, if you have any invoices that are outstanding, so when you get your initial notification that it's time to renew your license, you'll get an auto-generated email and a notification from the system that says there's been a new charge or adjustment to your account. If you log in and navigate to your dashboard, any outstanding invoices will pop up on the right side of this screen, and you'll be able to hover over it and click. And then it will navigate you to your outstanding invoices. So if you are someone who has multiple licenses that you're using one email account for, say you had 2 or 3 and you wanted to pay them all at one time, you do have the option to multi-select here and pay the selected ones. You don't have to open each one up individually and pay them if you have more than one. So you could click this green button, pay selected $350, and it would navigate you to your payment options to pay all 3 of those at once. So, but we're just going to do it for the sake of today. Say you just have one, and you will open that fee up, and then you will see you have 2 options here. You can either pay online, and if you select this option, it'll navigate you to our online payment portal, or you can generate a payment voucher that you can print off and then mail in a check to be processed that way. Of course, that's going to take a little bit longer, but for those of you that are more comfortable with doing a paper check, you do still have that option. So we will navigate back to the dashboard and hop back in the presentation, and I'll allow for any time for questions. If you all have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat before we move on to some of the forms that you're going to be completing in ePermitting. And I'll give about 30 seconds to see if any questions come up on the license renewal process or just, any general questions about getting your account set up and logging in.
Nothing in the chat so far. Oh, we have a couple. One gentleman saying, "I am not seeing your computer screen." Josh, I would suggest maybe leaving the meeting and rejoining. And if that doesn't work, we are recording this. So we can make sure you get a copy of the recording afterwards. Someone from Fonda SC Septic says we did not receive the form to create an account.
Okay. Contact me after this is over. You'll have my state cell phone and my email. Go ahead and give me a call and we'll find it and get your account set up. Okay. You
Thank
are
you.
welcome. You're welcome. All right.
We have one more question. If we already have an account, do we still need the verification code?
Yes. If you have not added that license or claimed that license on your existing account, you do still need the verification code. You'll have to enter that to be able to see anything related to your license through your existing account. All right. I'm going to go ahead and move on. If anything else pops up, Catherine, we can just handle it at the next question session.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get into some of the forms that you all will be completing in ePermitting. I will go ahead and tell you, once you see one of them, they all look very similar, and we did that intentionally. We wanted to make it as easy as possible for you all to get some muscle memory as you start working in here. And we've created these forms to be very simple. So it's going to collect the information that we need without putting too much of a burden on y'all to have to sit here and spend, 30 minutes working through a form in ePermitting. So if you are a Tier 3 installer, this applies to you. As part of being a Tier 3 installer, you're required to be insured and bonded. So beginning after the go live on July 15th, Tier 3 installers will be required to complete a form that submits proof of insurance and bonding information annually in conjunction with their license renewal in ePermitting. So what that means is when you get notification that it's time for your next license renewal after the go live, you're also going to get a notification if you are a Tier 3 installer that you have to complete this form to show us proof of insurance and bonding. So you'll get a notification in the database under your dashboard and under notifications that this form is due. And if you have your account set up to do so, you'll also get an email. And we'll go over that at the end. So nobody panic. I'll show you how to make sure you're getting those emails as well. The important thing to remember with this is that you have to submit this form in order to have your license renewed. Okay, so we'll hop back into the database, and I'll go ahead and have Catherine enable the chat while I'm going through this so that if y'all have any questions, you can go ahead and get them typed in so we don't have that awkward waiting period after I'm done with the form. So when you log back in, we're back on the ePermitting dashboard. You'll see that these forms are showing up as being priority items due. So we're going to navigate to this proof of bonded insurance. This is the one I want to show y'all first. And whenever you go to start any form in ePermitting, you're going to click begin. And ePermitting is repetitive. So you will have to click to begin twice. It wants to make sure that you're sure that you want to do this thing that you're saying you want to do. So you'll notice you have to do that a lot. Click what seems like a begin or, submit form more than one time. But don't fret. That's how it's set up. So we'll click begin form entry again. And right off the bat, it's going to ask you to enter your license number. So the next question, and this is really geared towards people who would have multiple licenses on one account, is the proof that you're sending to us. It wants to make sure that the proof is associated with this license number that you just entered. So if you say no, it's going to warn you that you're in the wrong license. So you're trying to complete the form for the wrong license, and you need to basically exit this form and try again. But as long as you say yes, you'll be able to complete the rest of the form. So we're going to ask you to submit a list of the providers for your bonding and insurance coverage. And we've set this up so that you can enter multiple rows. So if you have, more than one provider, you can enter as many as you need to by simply clicking add row here and adding all the ones necessary. So once you've actually listed out the providers here, we're going to ask you to give us some type of proof, that you do actually have this coverage. So you'll have to upload a document, and you have a couple of options when you go to upload documents into the database. You can either drag and drop files into this box, or you can select choose a file. The only thing that I will say is ePermitting is a little bit finicky, so you would have to upload one at a time. So just keep that in mind. We're going to drag and drop in this case, but it will not let you multi-select files and upload more than one. So one at a time. So once you have everything entered, you can select the next option to review. And what this review section is going to do is provide you with a summary of all the information that you've entered thus far. So say you're looking at this and you realize, oh, I listed out 3 providers, but I only uploaded 1 document. I need to upload proof of these other 2. If you have edits that you need to make when you get to this review step, you simply just click back into that section of the form here on the left, and then it'll navigate you back to that section so that you can make additional edits. So, you could drag and drop your other files in here and then proceed to that review step again. So as long as you've reviewed it, everything looks good, you have the option to certify and submit. And this is where it seems like it's a little bit repetitive, but once you click certify and submit, it's going to bring you to this section that basically lets you know that you're certifying to us that the information you're providing is accurate to the best of your knowledge. And then you will click submit form. From here, you have the option to either view the form that you just submitted or return to ePermitting home. If you select this option, it'll take you back to your home hub and ePermitting. But I do want to show you all something. So we're going to select view submission. So if you wanted to retain a copy of this for your file, you want to print a copy or download a copy to your computer, you have the option to print here or download and export. If you want to just simply view the form to see what you submitted, review it one more time, you can click view form, and it'll actually open that summary of that form back up for you. If you do need to make revisions, you have the option to revise the submission. The only thing that I will tell you, if you're just looking to look at the form, just see a copy, just click view form, and then you can see it, you can print it, you can download it that way. If you do need to make a revision, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is once you select revise submission, that form goes back into draft status. So if you do not certify and submit the form again, it gets stuck in draft status and we can't actually do anything to process it. So if you do have to revise it, just make sure you navigate all the way back down to the bottom of that form and certify and submit it again so that it gets to us and we can process it. All right, Catherine, I think that that brings us to our next question session, if there are any.
Yes, there are a few. What are the qualifications for tier 3?
Okay, that is more of a David question. So, David, did you want to answer that now, or you want to hold that until your talk at the end? Just add it to your agenda.
Let's hold off till we talk then, and I'll go through all the tiers and the requirements. So
All right.
make sure just hold on to the question so we don't skip over.
Okay. Let's see. The owner has 2 license numbers, so should I create 2 different accounts?
No. It's really up to your preference, but if it's the same licensee, you can use one email and claim both of those licenses on that one account. And if you need help, like really y'all, if y'all need help, I am here to help you. Don't hesitate to reach out to me by phone or to send me an email, and I'm happy to set up a Teams call and screen share. If you're just really not sure and you want to make sure you're doing this thing right, reach out to me. I like working in this database, or I wouldn't be doing this job. So I am here as a resource for you. So if you just don't feel comfortable or you want my help, reach out to me. But yeah, you can use one account for both of those licenses.
Okay, we have one more.
Okay.
I understand bonding, but why proof of insurance? That's not something that is required for other state licenses. Insurance providers also have limited options as to how to cover.
Okay, we'll put that on David's agenda for when he takes over after I'm done with the ePermitting side.
Sounds good.
Okay. Is that it on this portion of it, Catherine?
That is the last one.
Okay. All right. So this is pertaining specifically to pumper haulers. This is a form that you will have to submit at least initially in conjunction with your license renewal after we go live. You're going to have to submit updated septic disposal site permissions. So we need something in writing from wherever you're disposing of this septic waste that says you got permission to dispose of it here. So initially, we're going to need to get copies of these. If you have permission and it does not expire for 10 years, or it does not expire ever, you're not going to have to keep uploading the same copy of that written permissions over and over again. The form will be required to be completed at least annually, but I will show you the option that you have to get it through the system quick if you don't have any updates to make. So again, just like everything else, you'll get notification that this form is due in ePermitting, and you'll also get an email, and we'll make sure you all have your accounts set up that way so that you're getting emails and not just notified in the database. And this form is going to have to be completed in conjunction with your license renewal every year. So we will jump into this form. Okay, so you'll see here, I'm again on this dashboard at the proof of permission, and I'm going to select begin. And begin again. Okay, so this is what I meant. Initially, you're going to have to say yes. You're going to upload a copy of these permissions. But we'll say next year, you have permission to dispose of, say, City of Florence wastewater treatment plant, and it's indefinite. As long as you're in good standing with them, you can dispose of your waste there forever, however long. Doesn't expire. So you come in here next year to do this form over again, and you don't have any changes. All you say is no. And then you'll be navigated to the review section. So you don't have any updates or changes to your septic disposal permissions, and you can certify and submit. But at least initially, you're going to have to upload a copy of those disposal site permissions. So we're going to say yes, and then you'll see when I say yes, another section of the form pops up here, proof of permission. So we're going to navigate to that section of the form. It's again going to ask you to enter your license number. And it's going to ask you the same question again. Is this proof associated with this license number that you just entered? You say yes, continue moving through the form. So you'll notice this looks very familiar, looks just like the last form. We're going to ask you to list out those locations. Again, it's multi-row. So if you're disposing at 3 or 4 different locations, you can add as many as you need here. So we'll add a couple, and we'll just click add row. And then again, we're going to ask you to actually upload a copy of something proving that, what you're listing here, you give us the proof that you do actually have permission to dispose here. So you can again drag and drop. And we'll just ask you to submit proof, something from these entities, wherever you're disposing that says, yeah, you got permission to dispose with us. Once you've got all the information input, again, you'll select review. It'll navigate you to this review section of the form. As long as you don't have any changes you need to make, you can go to next section, certify and submit. And of course, if you did have any changes, you would just simply click back in that section of the form, and it would take you back to that section so that you can edit it. But we'll say for today, we don't have any changes. We're ready to certify and submit. So we can select submit form. And then in this case, we'll select the option to return to ePermitting home. For each of these forms, you're going to have the option to view the form or revise. Any form that you submit in ePermitting, you'll have that option. All right, so that is that form. And Catherine, I'll take any questions that we might have on the disposal permissions form.
None yet.
Okay. I'll give it a few seconds before I move on to the last one. All right, I'm not seeing anything, so I will move on to the final form. So I will start this by saying, if you have questions about the CEU process itself, what we're going to recognize as far as CEUs go, hold that for when David talks after me. I am strictly reviewing the form and ePermitting. So if you have questions about the form, I will take those when I'm done with the demo of the form. But if you've got questions about, the CEU program, hold those for David. I think he's going to go into a little bit more detail on it anyway. But this form is a little bit different than the forms we've gone over so far. All the previous forms are due annually, whereas CEUs will be due once every 2 years in conjunction with your license renewal. And this program actually doesn't start. I know the slide says May 27th, 2025, but it's actually July 1, 2025. This program will go into effect, and you'll have 2 years to obtain the required number of CEUs. The number that you need as far as credits is based on what tier installer you are. So if you are tier 1, you would need 8 hours. Tier 2 is 12, and that's going to be the vast majority of y'all. And then tier 3 is 18 credit hours. And again, you have 2 years to get these credits. And this is going to be due every 2 years in conjunction with your license renewal. This form is set up so that you have that entire 2-year period to actually upload information into the form. So we're not going to, make you do it all within 30 days of it being due. You've taken these 2 years worth of courses and you got to go find your certificates and upload them into the form. We've set it up so that once you start it, if you take one course and it's 2 hours, you can upload that 2 hours and save that form as a draft, and you can keep coming back into that form over and over again throughout the years, that 2-year period, and uploading your credits. So again, just like everything else, the notification is going to be delivered in ePermitting and via email. And this is going to have to be submitted every 2 years in order to renew your license. So we will jump into that form now. All right, and you'll see that this is the final form that pops up on my dashboard. So we're going to start it now. Okay, so this form is a little bit different. We have set it up to pull your license number in automatically and pull what tier installer you are, and that is for a reason. Based on what tier installer you are, the form itself is set up to recognize how many credit hours you need. So because I've pulled in a tier 2 installer for this form is going to recognize that for this license number, you need 12 credits to move forward and submit the form. So it's again going to ask you that same question: are the CEUs that you're submitting associated with this license number that's shown? If you say yes, you can move on forward. And this one, we've got it swapped. So you're going to upload the certificate first that shows that you've completed this course. So we'll drag and drop the file in here. And then we're going to ask you to list out the classes or the courses that you took, the date that you completed them, and how many hours of credit you received. So we'll list one out and say we took it on May the 6th and we got 6 hours of credit. All right, because I only have 6 hours of credit listed here, this is a tier 2 installer. So the form again is set up to recognize that 12 hours is needed. It's going to notify me that because I've only entered 6 hours, I don't have enough credits, so I can't submit this form. So what you can do, and we've set this up so that, we want you to do it this way if it's your preference. As you take these courses, you can come into this form, you can add your certificates, add your class title and your hours, and you can actually save your progress, and this will save as a draft. Now, I want y'all to note that it auto saves, but it says it was last saved 2 minutes ago. So if you are ever uploading anything in here, you're uploading a certificate and you want to save your progress, you've only taken one class and you're going to take 2 more later, make sure you're always clicking this save progress button, and it'll show up last saved a few seconds ago, because I don't want you to lose anything that wasn't auto saved in the form. So save progress, and then you can simply exit the form. So I've only taken one course. I got 6 hours of credit. We'll say, a couple months down the line, I take another course and I want to come in here and add it. This will show up again on your priority dashboard, and it'll show up also as a draft. And you have the option to continue that draft. So it will stay here as a draft submission until you're ready to submit it. And we've set this up so that you have that entire 2-year period. Once you get that initial notification, you have that entire 2-year period to get these credits. So say I took another course and I want to add it, I will navigate to the drafts, click continue, and then it'll open that form back up for me. So say I want to make changes. When it opens the form back up, it's going to automatically navigate you to the review section. You'll see that continuing education units here is in red. You just click back in this section of the form where it's red, and then you can add anything necessary. So I'm going to add, that I took a second course, drag and drop my certificate, and then I'm going to add another row. And we'll say that I just took that one yesterday, and I got 6 more hours of credit. So you'll see that it's going to sum those hours. It's going to recognize, hey, now I've got 12 hours. It's a tier 2 installer. You've got the required number of hours. The warning goes away, and now you can submit that form. So we can navigate to the review section, make sure we review any of our information. We've got all our certificates, got all our courses listed, and how many hours we received. And then you'll click certify and submit, and then submit form. And that is it for all the required forms that you all are going to be required to complete once we go live. So I will take any questions related to the CEU form now, Catherine.
There are a few, but it looks like they may be more for David. How do you sign up? Will you be offering conferences or training opportunities? Are there going to be courses online? So it sounds like those are more for David.
Okay. All right. Well, I will move on then to the final form. This form is going to be different than the forms that we've gone over so far. What I want to review for y'all now is what's called a general information change form. Once we go live in the database for y'all on July 15th, any kind of administrative changes that you need to make. So if you need to change your business name or your billing address or your billing contact, or even add or remove pumper hauler trucks from your fleet, you will now handle those changes through ePermitting through the use of this form. One thing I want to note is that you cannot use that form if you want to change who the licensed individual is. That would actually be a new application for another license. So this one's going to be different. And the reason I say that is you are not going to see that pop up in your priority dashboard. It's not something that, we're going to be notifying you on a routine basis, like once a year or so, that you have to do this form. It's going to be one that, you're letting us know that you need to make some changes. So to find this form, you want to make sure if you have multiple permits here, you have the correct permit or license selected. And then you're going to select the option here on the left. This is your main menu in ePermitting. So you're going to navigate to that menu and select Start a New Form. And then you're going to select the option to renew, modify, or terminate an existing permit. And then you will see that you have 2 forms pop up. You have a termination or closure, and then you have that general information change form pop up. So we're going to click Begin on that general information change. And then we're going to begin again. And this form again is set up to pull in your license number. So that's the entire first section of the form, is just that license number pulled in. And then you will navigate to the next section. And here is where we have some what we call conditional formatting. So we don't want you to have to complete every single section of this form if you just need to make one change to your business name. So if you just want to change your business name, you would click on billing contact information here, and you'll notice that another section of the form populates here when I select that box. So we'll navigate into that section of the form just so that I can show y'all that section. So say you need to change your billing contact. There are certain fields in the sections of this form that are required. Anything with a red asterisk is required. So these are fields where you're going to have to input information before it'll let you submit the form. But you could make any changes here to your business name. If the phone number was updated, email address, your mailing address, you could change those through this section of the form. So one other section I wanted to show y'all is the adding or removing pumper vehicles. And you can see when I deselected this section of the form, it disappeared over here. So we're going to select the option to add or remove pumper vehicles. And then you'll see the pumper hauler truck section of the form pops up. So if you need to add a pumper hauler truck or remove a pumper hauler truck from your fleet, we are going to ask that if you're adding a new truck, you give us the vehicle year, make, and model and the tag number, and you input that into this form. And then we're also going to ask that you upload 2 pictures, one of the side profile and then one of the back. And if when we're getting that back picture, we want that tag visible in that photo. And you would, again, drag and drop those files here and add any comments necessary. You know, if you were adding this vehicle to your fleet, or if you were moving this vehicle from your fleet, you could add those comments here. So say you wanted to add multiple trucks. Let's say you bought 2 that were, you know, just alike, and the only difference is the tag number. You could duplicate that pumper hauler truck, and then it would duplicate that information that you entered all over again. Or you could select add new, you know, if they got a different year, make, and model. And you'll see with each section that I add, you have pumper truck 1, pumper truck 2, and pumper truck 3. So if you accidentally add a section and you don't mean to, you always have the option to come in here and delete that section as well by just selecting delete here. And that is it in a nutshell as far as the general information change form. Once you complete, you know, the required items in whatever section is applicable to you, you would again review it, and it's going to give you a little summary of everything that you've entered, and then certify and submit, just like the other forms. So with that, Catherine, I'll take any questions on that general information change form, and then I'll just review some basics, ins and outs of the database after that.
Not seeing any.
Okay. So some things that I wanted to provide to y'all there.
Oh, we got one that came in. Is this just for pump trucks, or is it for all equipment?
As far as the form, it's for pumper hauler trucks.
Okay.
If it needed to be modified in the future for any other equipment, we could always do that. David, I'm not sure, you know, what the necessity is of that, but we could always talk about that. But right now it's just trucks.
That's correct, just trucks.
Yep. Okay, so some helpful links that, you know, wanted to provide to y'all. The top link here is our dedicated ePermitting training page. So that page has some resources for y'all. There's some videos on there, very basic ePermitting training, you know, how to get your account set up, how to add additional users, just some ins and outs of ePermitting, kind of how to navigate your way around. You can find those types of videos and written documents on that training page. Then the next link is our troubleshooting link. So if you get locked out of your account, or you are having some issues using your ePermitting account, if you navigate to that link at the very bottom of the page, there is a chat bot, and you can utilize that chat bot to see if it can help you kind of work through your issues that you're having. If it cannot, so if it's like a password reset request, it will actually send your information to our ePermitting help email, and someone from that team would reach out to you to try to get your account password reset and get you logged back in. And that third link is actually the external prod production environment, what we call it. So that's the link that you'll use when you initially go to set up your account. And anytime you visit ePermitting thereafter, that's the link for y'all to use. So the last thing I wanted to show y'all is just how to set your account preferences and just kind of some ins and outs of the database, just getting you a little bit comfortable with how to find things in here. As far as account preferences go, if you look over on the top right of the screen, you will see your name whenever you log in. If you hover over it, it'll display profile and settings. And one thing I want everybody to make sure of is that your notification delivery preference is set to deliver in system and via email. That way, you know that you're getting notified both places, because I don't think everybody wants to log into ePermitting once a week to check to see if you've got any notifications. You know, you want to get those email notifications too, so that, you know, you're not relying on just logging into the database on a certain frequency to check and see if we're, you know, letting you know something's due. So make sure you've got those account preferences set. It should default to that, but just double check to make sure that it's set up to send you an email as well. So the next thing I want to show you, and we're still on user profile, is if you look at the top, there's some tabs. So if you click on sites, this will show you any sites or licenses or permits that are associated with your account. So you'll see I have a lot on here because this is my testing account. And some of you may have a lot too, especially if you've been helping clients apply for septic tank permits. If you have ones on here that you feel like you have 5 or 6 sites, but you log in one day and you're only seeing 2, check here under your user profile under the sites tab and make sure that none of those sites have been hidden, because you have the option to toggle between these 2 and hide or show sites when you log in on that little menu, the site menu on the top left, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But you can see I'll show some just so I can show you what I'm talking about. So you'll see on this menu here, this drop down site menu, now I have 4 different sites that are popping up that I can now click between and switch between my different sites. So as I select different sites, you'll see that these items change. If I select all, it's going to show me anything on this dashboard that is due for any site associated with my name. So say I just wanted to see what was due for this particular permit. So I selected this particular permit or license, and then everything here shifted to show just what's due for this particular site or this particular license. So everything here on this left menu will show you things associated with the site that you have selected here. So if I wanted to see permits for this particular site, I could click on permits and it would show me all the different permits that are associated with this site. So you can see this one has an on-site wastewater installer license and then some private well permits as well. Any inspections that are done, and this is specifically for those of y'all that have pumper hauler trucks, that license, pumper hauler license. If we've done any kind of inspections, they would show up here under this evaluations menu item, and you'd be able to view those inspections. Print them, save a copy to your computer, however you want to handle those, but you will have access to those if we have done any recently and they're entered into the database. Financials is going to be anything that's due for whatever site you have selected, and it's going to show you its status. If it's green, you're good, it's been paid. If it's red, that means that it's due and you need to submit a payment for that. Documents is any documents that are associated with this particular permit that you have selected. Now, if you have all selected here, it's going to show you all the documents for all of those different sites or permits. So for here, this is going to show any documents that are available for this license in the database. And then authorized users is anybody that's set up to be an authorized user on your account. So if you wanted to add someone else from your business to your account, so say you wanted to add an office manager, you have a business partner you wanted to add as an authorized user, you would simply click the button here that says invite user to join, enter their name, their email, and what role. If you have somebody that is just helping you out with your business and you want them to be able to complete some of these forms and pay any fees on your behalf, you could assign them the role of editor, and they can do all those things with that security role. They don't have to have that administrator level. Ideally, that person who's listed as the permittee should be the administrator on your site. So with that, Catherine, I will open it up for any more questions. And I will link my contact information as the final slide here. So if you have any questions for me, this is my direct email. This will change coming up with the split as we become Department of Environmental Services. But for a period of time, if you email this email address, even after we become Department of Environmental Services, the email will still make it to me. And this is my state cell phone number. Reach out to me directly if you have any questions. If you're having issues, you didn't get your letter, or you're having issues setting up your account or claiming your license or your permit, reach out to me and I'll be happy to troubleshoot with you and see if we can't get you fixed up. And then here on the left is our ePermitting help email. Again, that's the email you would be routed to if you utilize that chatbot on the troubleshooting page. If that chatbot can't help you resolve your issue, then it's going to be routed to that ePermitting help email. And those are kind of the frontline folks that really help with the password resets and stuff like that. So with that, I will take any questions for me.
Okay. What if we don't have an evaluation tab? I'm looking on our portal/account and don't see that.
Okay. Have you added your license yet? If you have not added your license, that may be why,
Yes.
but
They said yes.
okay. It may just be that, there are none available. Okay, yeah. It may just be that there are none available. You haven't had an evaluation done, and this is my external test site that we've been working in today and doing the demos in. So some things may look slightly different, but if there are no evaluations available, meaning we have not done an evaluation or inspection on your pumper hauler license. And do you have a pumper hauler license? That's my next question. Because if not, if you're a tier 1, 2, or 3, you probably won't see that yet.
Okay. It's saying the license is in there.
Mhm. It just may be that there are none available to view. So yeah, if there's no evaluations that have been conducted in the database, you just may not see that until that actually happens.
Okay. Can you add a truck without inspection?
David? I'm not sure if he heard that question.
Add a truck without inspect. No, every vehicle that you add to it, we want to make sure we've got an initial inspection performed on that vehicle. And then what we're supposed to be doing is like quarterly inspections on these vehicles. We haven't had the staffing ability to do that for the past several years. However, we're working our way back that direction very quickly.
Yeah, when Emma or David, could one of y'all type her contact information into
Yep.
the chat?
I am doing it right now.
We did have a question a little earlier about what about septic trucks to carry tanks on?
Yeah, and that was simple. We never have been in the business of inspecting a septic tank, hauler truck. It's just the pumping apparatus, whether that's a pumping vehicle or a trailer set up to pump septic tanks that's pulled behind a larger tow vehicle.
And how can we get a copy of this recording?
That one's for you, Captain.
Yeah, I can provide, David, I don't know how y'all want to distribute it, but I can provide you with a link.
And so with that being said, we can drop a link of the recordings in another communication through this ePermitting system as we go forward with that. And we can also include that on our website, on our contractors installers page.
Yeah, and one thing I did forget to mention, you will not have to watch this whole recording over again if you just want to see how to do one particular form. I'm actually recording short videos of how to complete each of these forms. They're about 3 to 5 minutes. So if you just want to know how to complete that pumper hauler proof of permission form, we'll upload links to those videos on our website so that y'all have those, and you can just watch a short video of how to complete each of these forms, and you don't have to listen to this whole, spiel all over again if you just need to know how to do one particular form. So we will put some short videos out on our website for y'all to make this process go a little bit smoother as you start using them.
How do we get trucks inspected?
So normally at the time of permitting, we're going to require an initial inspection to get you to be licensed as a pumper hauler. If you want to add pumper vehicles to that account, we'll inspect them at that point in time. You just contact your regional environmental affairs office and tell them you've got another vehicle that needs to be inspected, because we've got to make sure that not only do you have the proper equipment on there, but you've also got the licensing requirements, being that the DHEC license number and company name on 3 sides of the vehicle, and at least 4-inch letters, I believe, and numbers.
Okay. Any more questions for Emma before we hand things over to David? Will we be able to obtain final permits for properties needing a repair through ePermitting?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I can answer that for Emma when you're looking at approvals to operate. So everything that we have is intended to be in ePermitting or linking to an application extender program through ePermitting if it was issued prior to that. And the intention is that it's made public, okay, so that everybody's got access. You can go in there, you can search them yourself. You don't have to go through the Freedom of Information Office. You don't have to call a local office to get that information. You can search it, and if you can't find it, we don't have it. However, when we flip that switch, it flips the accessibility for every program that has ePermitting as their primary database they're utilizing. And a few of the other bureaus aren't ready for that just yet. So once that they are, we'll make everybody accessible that way, whether you're looking for a well permit or for a septic permit or for some type of an air permit on a piece of property, anything that the department issues from an environmental perspective, you can go through and search that. For right now, you can definitely reach out to your local office and ask if they've got a copy if they need to search for something. Okay, so let's get these other questions in just a couple of minutes. When we get to that spot about CEUs, let me run through and kind of give you a little bit of an idea of what's going on, and then we'll see how applicable those questions still are. So as you can see, this is a real exciting and simple process. So if it seems like Emma was going fast, she was. She kind of, that's her nature because she gets so excited about things. I don't want you to feel too intimidated by that. And as Emma said, you don't have to go back and look at what's already an hour-long video to try and just get the grasp of this stuff again. We're going to give you additional information. We're going to, record some small, short tutorial videos, things, resources, written materials, all of that to be accessible on our webpage, and we'll let you know when things are ready for that. So we want to communicate with you as much as we possibly can and overload you with information, hopefully, so that once this thing goes live, you're able to get in there and crawl. We don't expect you to be a marathon runner or an Olympic sprinter. We just want to make sure that you can get in there and function. So the abilities for this system to allow you to schedule a final inspection and report inspections of self-installation, self-inspections of an installation that you've done, it has the capability to do that, but we're not going to turn on that function in the beginning. We're going to wait, at least 6 months before we do it. Make sure everybody's in the system, that they're working, that they're comfortable, and they understand how it works and what to do and how to put things in. Right now, it would cause more confusion with the traditional process that's in place. So on July 15th, you'll continue to do those things the same way you do now. The only thing different is your account, your billing, and your licensing is going to go through the system. Okay. So CEUs, as we put this into place, this is going to be the vehicle that you report those CEUs to. How do we get them? We're in the process of developing a continuing education program to allow you to utilize a bevy of resources to get these credits. Okay. As Emma said, Tier 1 has a requirement of 8 CEUs, Tier 2 is 12, and a Tier 3 is 18 CEUs. They increase with the complexity of the actual systems that you're installing and the designs that you're working with. So how do we get them? We want to make it as easy as possible for you to get those. So, things like reciprocity with other states. There was a question in the chat about Georgia. Can we go to one of their associational meetings and utilize their continuing education units? And the answer is yes. We want to make those things available. Those neighboring states that have got professional associations that are applicable to your license, we want to make sure that you can get CEUs from them and get credit for that. So when you're looking at North Carolina's Water Protection Conference every year in October, North Carolina Septic Tank Association, their Professional Soil Classifiers Association, Georgia's On-Site Wastewater Association, things of that nature. The University of Georgia has online courses. So does NC State University. that are all applicable to what we do. If it's not, if it's specializing in a system that's not one of our standards and doesn't necessarily remotely adhere to what we do, that's not something we're interested in you staying up on for our purposes. So our website will give you avenues to pursue. It'll give you options that are available. We're also auditing courses from the National On-Site Wastewater Association, or NALRA, and want to make those available as well. And they offer an awful lot of courses, and a lot of them are fantastic, and they're very comprehensive in what they cover. They're really good courses. Some of them, obviously, because they're applicable to multiple states, aren't necessarily applicable here. So we'll list the courses that we acknowledge and want to give you an opportunity to take. And if you're a member of a state association, which we do have here, they're just not very broadened as of yet. It's got a board associated with it, and that's about it. And the membership is very, very little, but it's the South Carolina On-Site Wastewater Association, or SCAWA for short. If they're already an affiliate with NALRA, and they'll offer courses at half price through your state association. So if you work through them, and by the time July of 2025 comes around, there'll be a whole lot much easier process to follow laid out for you to pursue. We'll send you links to that, and we'll also make it available right on our website for our contractors tab to allow you to go in there and see what's there. We're also working with Clemson University, who's developed online training for our staff internally, and working for some long-term efforts to provide in-person courses. And the idea is maybe through some of their properties around the state, their Clemson research extension stations, and do where we can do some field days and set up some things, either whether it's a state association doing it or working with some outside vendors, other universities, and the things that we may need to present as far as regulation is concerned. Right now, we don't have enough staff to devote 100% of their time to this and travel around the state doing 30 to 50 presentations a year. So we want to make everything accessible to you possible. Now, what if you find something that you're interested in and it's not on our list at that point in time? We'll let you contact us, through that method there listed on the website, and say, hey, let me submit this for your review. I'd like to take it and get credit for it. Or, maybe it's something else that you're already attending somewhere else. We'll take a look, review it, and make sure that it's applicable to our situation here in South Carolina. And if so, not only do we want to acknowledge and give you credit for it, we want to list it on that page as potential for somebody else to access as well, if they're also already doing it or looking for ways to get continuing education units. So your options aren't going to be just to go out of state to somebody else's program, but we want to make sure that you can do that. I went to Georgia's program in January, and I think there were 12 CEUs or more given just in that day and a half. North Carolina's gives like 18 in 2.5 days. So it's pretty comprehensive. You can knock them out pretty quick that way, but I understand that not everybody wants to, devote time away from their business into a trip and the out-of-state travel and things. So we want to make it as easy as we can. So we've got a little over a year to still put that into place. July 1 of 2025 is when this begins. Okay, that is not when all of these credits are due. They're when you can begin getting those credits towards your license. You have 2 years from July the 1st to report your first booking of CEUs, for lack of a better term. If your license renews at a different date, you may have a little bit more time than that 2 years initially, and then it'll pick up its normal every other year time frame once you do that. So I don't want anybody to panic and think everything's going to be done in a year. In a year, we'll begin this. We delayed the implementation for 3 years on purpose to make sure that we had this thing already put in place, got the kinks worked out of it, and got a clear path forward and a nice, pretty vision and presentation of it so that it's easy for you to be getting these requirements. And it'll help throughout the different tiers. It helps me stay educated up on current practices. It helps maintain a good professional appearance and also helps you associate with others in the industry to help bolster our the industry itself in South Carolina. Other states have been doing this for a long time, and they've got things that are heavily established, and they got lots of folks from engineers, soil classifiers, installers, pumper haulers, regulators such as myself, and they're all working together. They're meeting. They're all learning the same things. It gives them a chance to interact and network with one another and helps build a much stronger industry all the way around. So we're excited about that. It's also compliant with statute, with the law. It said we had to have a tiered process in place. And we did. We had a master contractor's regulation itself, and then regulation 6156 that had installers in it. But that was it. It was this or that. And one of them required CEUs, the other one didn't. So here we're just complying with state statute that says you need to have a tiered program for installers and continuing education units required for each of them. So that's why we did this, not just to pick on people. So, yeah,
David, you got a couple
Yes.
questions in the chat if you're ready.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay. Let me see. I can't remember if I already read this one, so I apologize. Will we be able to obtain final permits for properties needing a repair through ePermitting?
Yeah, and that's where I addressed that through. Eventually, yes, but right now, no, not until we turn on that functionality for all of those programs that are in ePermitting.
Okay. At a meeting several years ago, I had questioned if an installer who has been in the business for 55 plus years has to do the continued education, and I was told that he is grandfathered in as a tier 3. Is that still the case?
I think there's a little confusion on that itself. So everybody, when this new regulation went into effect, was automatically grandfathered into a tier 2 licensing category, no matter what they were previously. Okay. If they were a master contractor currently licensed when this reg went into effect, they became licensed as a tier 3 installer. But there were only about 13 of those in the state at that point in time. Now, Ms. Watkins will have to back me up on it, but we were up over 70 to 80 of them at last count. And I think it's much higher than that already. So the requirements that went along with the master contractor didn't change, not one bit. The only thing that did change was the CEUs for them were 6 units then. Now it's 18 within this tiered process. One thing we did add to that category for a tier 3 installer is that's the only tier that is allowed to install engineered septic systems. So anything that's been issued a permit through the 610, 611 standard or the 150 standard for large systems has to be installed by a tier 3 installer. So it also should say they're the ones allowed to work on them, but there is it's kind of mute to that, but that's the expectation.
Okay. Can we get credit hours for today?
That's a good question. And if the program were going ahead and put in place and take into effect legally, according to the regulation, absolutely. But unfortunately, no, it's all prep. I tell you what we can do. We'll give you a free pass today and not send a bill for today's training.
Okay, thanks, David. Will DHEC provide courses for us to get credits?
And again, yes, that is our intention. We won't provide all of them. We just don't have the ability to. Maybe we will one day in the future. But until then, we want to make as many opportunities available as possible. And we'll work out and do some foundling, opportunities to get CEUs and things that we can present materials from, things similar to what we're doing today. If we need to give you ePermitting tutorials and improvements, advancements, and how to work through it, and some regulation updates, things of that nature is what we'll tend on covering. But system basics, ins and outs, installations, things like that, we would help to, coordinate some field days for that is what our intention is.
All right, next, what course material is tested on for tier 3?
Okay, so, well, let's see. I happen to keep it at my fingertips, excuse me. So all you have to know for a tier 3 is everything between the cover of this book and the back cover of it. So this is regulation 6156 for on-site wastewater systems, if that's clear enough to be seen. You know, your different tiers there, it's listed back in section 700, which is towards the end of that regulation. And each specific tier has got a little different test associated with it. You need to be familiar with the ins and outs of the entire regulation, but you don't have to know it cover to cover. About the first 17 to 18 pages are very important because that is a generalized, you know, minimum site conditions, minimum permit requirements, final approval requirements, setbacks. Those things are all, you know, very basic things that everybody must know. There are also a few questions in there that ask some simple things about, you know, with a conventional system that has 23 inches of a minimum depth, how much rock, you know, aggregate should be, what's the depth there? What's the depth to the water table if you've got a 30-inch maximum depth and a 24-inch, you know, trench, things of that nature. So pretty basic, but you do need to understand them.
Okay, CEU hours dated 4/24 will be good for credit for July 2025.
Now, once again, not until it goes into effect can we start acknowledging credit for CEUs.
Okay. Can we sign up for CEUs on the website?
Yeah, once it's available to you, if we're offering a program, you know, a presentation or program, yes, just like you signed up for things today, that would be the intention of how we advertise that. Otherwise, you can identify. We want to give you information to choose from, not necessarily force you to get certain things. So yes, you can select from the list that we'll keep working to update and expand upon with every coming week. But you can select from that, and then once you get that approval, upload it to your own account.
So that list will be available once this goes into effect?
Yes. Hopefully
Okay.
we'll have something out, you know, a little bit earlier and build upon it. But yeah, definitely once it goes into effect. And once again, we'll communicate with you. We'll let you know this e-permitting system has got everybody's email address, so we can send blast messages out and say, okay, here's a link. It's ready to go. You know, in another month, you're going to be able to start gaining these credits for your license.
Okay, so this person is asking, where can we get these credits if DHEC doesn't provide the course needed, but it sounds like there's going to be a resource list available.
That's right.
Okay. If we renew a license that was due June 1st, do we have until July 2025 to complete the credits?
No, it's not going to put you in such a bind then. So that's the case where I said you'll have actually a little bit more than 2 years. So if it starts on June the 1st, which it doesn't, it'll be July the 1st, but you won't have a month to get them. You'll have 2 years from your date of renewal. So you'll have 2 years and a month in that case.
All right, this person is not sure if their question was answered. So having installed the first experimental engineered systems, cat boxes, etc., am I not considered a tier 3?
No, sure not. So prior to this regulation being put into effect, those were considered, you know, approved, you know, to be installed by any licensed installer. Now that these tiers are put in place, they're specific to who can do what, and it's not based on what you had done prior to that date. That's great, you got that experience. However, to become a tier 3 installer, you one have to pass an examination that you can set up an appointment with your local regional environmental affairs office. And 2, you've got to show proof of insurance and bonding. And there was a question in there about that. And so there's lots of questions. Normally when it comes to bonding, because somebody reaches out to their insurance person, what kind of bond do you want? And it's non-specific in the regulation, but it's essentially a surety bond. Okay, what do we need to put on that? What type of an amount does it need to cover? And I suggest that you get a surety bond for a price that's equal to or more than the most expensive system you're installing. That gives you the opportunity to choose. In certain parts of the state, you may be installing systems that only range from $12,000 to $20,000 at the upper end of this engineered type design. And in other areas, you may be as high as $150,000 for the type of system you're putting in. It all depends on you and your business, and you're responsible for covering yourself with that bond. Insurance coverage is the same thing. It requires that you have bonding and insurance. It doesn't require that you have a certain amount of insurance. However, if you're not getting enough to cover yourselves, you're going to be responsible and liable for things that aren't covered.
All right, next question. When we are ready to take the Tier 3 installer exam, how do we do that?
And as I said, reach out to your local environmental affairs office and set up an appointment with them. Bring the required materials. Once you pass that test, we'll charge a fee from you to get a license. And another thing I want to mention is you can't have an enforcement action against you for a period of 3 years prior to obtaining that license. So if you've had some type of an enforcement action, put on warning, and I don't mean from a local office, I mean from here in Columbia, from the enforcement section, if you've been fined a civil penalty, you have to wait 3 years from the date of that last one in order to be qualified to take this test and get licensed.
All right, last question in the chat is, what's the reason for physical inspection of pump truck when it's regulated by DOT?
Well, the pump truck regulated by the highway department is regulated per what it does on the roadway, okay, traveling to and from. We're regulating the vehicle itself, and to make sure that you don't strap down a bunch of open containers and then pump out a septic tank into it and travel down the highway. We regulate the septage and the disposal of it. So that's why we're licensing and have to inspect the vehicle that's going to do the transportation of that. We're not looking at tread depth and, tire ply and the load rating. We're looking at the vehicle, the mechanisms that are doing the pumping to make sure that it's a responsible, agreeable unit that could do the actual pumping. We want to make sure that somebody doesn't have a repurposed pressure washer set up to go pump out septic systems, that they've actually got something that can be transferred to a facility. There's a water treatment facility that'll handle the product that's be disposed of, and that we're on the same page to make sure you've got a documentation logbook in the cab and that can match that up to receipts from the actual facility.
Are they still inspecting our dump sheets like they used to?
Yes and no. So yes, we're still required to do that. Are we doing it with the frequency that we used to? Not currently. So we're also not getting the amount of final inspections that we prefer to do as well, but we're on our way back to getting to that point. So we do a lot of final inspections now, but we're not back up to above 90%, which is where we want to be. We want somebody to expect us to show up, not expect us to not show up, like we have had to revert to from the issues we've been working with.
Will you explain again the purpose of DHEC changing the agency itself?
Okay, so that is a legislative action put in place from the General Assembly, and that was a bill passed last year that divides the public health side of the agency from the environmental side of the agency. So we'll have two completely separate agencies, a Department of Public Health and a Department of Environmental Services. And that was at the will of the General Assembly. So to come into compliance with that, we were doing everything we can to transition to a new agency, still providing the same services to the public that we've had. They're just separated in a different, a new logo, new letterhead, new business cards. Potentially even a new location once that gets worked out. But right now we're still providing the same services, just with a different name. And it's a General Assembly legislative action. Now, the public health side is still going through some different proposals to combine them with other health-related agencies. But environmental services will be the environmental side currently under DHEC's purview.
And I put a link in the chat. We have a restructuring webpage on our DHEC website that may answer some questions that you have, and you know, has some links that you can check out if you have any other questions.
Thank you.
So someone asked, where do we get these inspections done? And I think they were referring to the pump truck inspections.
Again, reach out to your local regional office that you're based in, you know, that serves a county that you're based in, and they'll set up an inspection with you, whether that's bringing it by one of their local offices or them going to you at your place of business. If you got multiple vehicles in multiple counties or multiple regions, you need to let them know that, make sure the account's set up correctly so that we know you've got 6 vehicles that need to be accounted for, not just one, or that somebody, you know, you're working in multiple counties. A lot of times it gets confusing when somebody calls in and says, you know, Able Septic was over here, and we look and say, no, they're licensed 3 counties away. We need to make sure we're accounting for everything you got, and that there's nobody impersonating your company out there illegally pumping and disposing of that material.
David, I'm also going to put a link in the chat to our EA local offices page. There's an interactive map where if you locate your county, you can click on it, and location and contact information for that office will pop up.
Yeah, you know, another question earlier, you know, to expand upon that a little bit is, you know, why are we doing this and not just the DOT? Well, like I said, the DOT has got the vehicle and its operation on the roadway. We're regulating the material that's being transported. So we're responsible for that, where it's been removed from, where it gets deposited to, because it is a criminal offense not to take it to an approved wastewater treatment facility and have it properly disposed of there. And if there's a spill, an accident, something of that nature, we still have to respond to that and make sure that things are being cleaned up according to the requirements in the law. Because it's a hazardous material that can make people sick.
All right, we have a few more. Tier 1 and 2 installers, are we required to have any type of insurance and or bond?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, how do we look up our CEU credits and when they expire, or that we need to do more?
I'll forward that one to Ms. Emma to respond to. Did you catch that, Emma?
Yeah, as far as how to look up credits that you have earned.
Correct.
How do they look up their credits so they can see if anything's about to expire or if they need to earn more?
Well, I mean, you would have that 2-year period, you know, every 2 years, you're going to have to get that required number of credits. So if you have not submitted that form already and, you know, you're going through over that 2-year period along and tracking or adding courses as you take them, you could always look in the form to see how many credits you've achieved. But as far as expiring, I mean, that would be once every 2 years, wouldn't it, David?
Yeah.
So as long as you've gotten your number of credits for a 2-year period, you don't have to worry about that until the start of that next 2-year period.
Yeah, some of you will probably get all of your units in one effort.
Yep. And once, you know, we have approved that form, so after you submit it and we approve it, you would see that reflected in the database as well, that we've approved, that you've gotten your number of credits for that 2-year period. And
you can get as many credits as you want. You can load as many credits as you want, but we're going to make sure you got the minimum requirement in there. And then at the end of that 2-year period, it's going to wash out and start over from scratch. So you won't be able to apply and build upon rollover credits in it.
And a copy of that form after it has been approved. So after we've approved the one you've submitted for your CEUs, that would actually show up under the documents for that particular license. So you would be able to go in and reference that form later on after it's approved.
Thank
you. Okay, so will we get a notification when it's time to restart our credits again? It sounds like yes.
Yes, you will see that you'll have a notification that that form is then due again for a new 2-year period.
But when do trucks have to be registered in ePermitting?
As you're setting up these accounts, if we don't have you registered, we need to put it in then. Those of you that already have information put in, will transfer over, we'll migrate it from your existing files. However, you're also given the opportunity when you do this to go ahead and get you an updated letter of disposal permissions put in then. And that way we're all starting on a clean slate. You don't have to do it every year. There is a checkbox for if there are changes or if you have not used one facility anymore and going to a new one, you can add it then. If you're wanting to put multiple facilities permissions there so that somebody doesn't see you dumping somewhere and then ask if you've had permission to do it and it's not in your file. Or if you've got dump tickets for a place that didn't have permissions on your file to dump, you want to make sure that's all in your account and everything's on the up and up. And the reason for that is some folks, unfortunately, have been delinquent on their payments and not been allowed to dump anymore. And then they're moving somewhere else so they didn't have permission to, or they may be trying to take a material that's not allowed there, such as some facilities won't accept grease at all. And some companies only pump grease for disposal. Others kind of maybe mix the two.
That is the last question at the moment.
Okay. All right. So
Whoop.
Emma's had, what's this
Spoke
one?
too soon. What is needed to report individuals who are not licensed for performing septic repairs and installs?
A phone call to us. So you can let us know. You can reach out to your local regional office, or you can visit DHEC's website and type in there our report it function, such as if you were reporting your neighbor for having a malfunctioning septic tank or your brother-in-law for whatever he did that's an environmental concern. You can submit it through that function, report it, and that'll allow you to put in specifically who, what, when, and where, and put a contact number so that we can keep in contact with you of the investigation, the actions taken, and if we need to follow up for additional clarification of the request.
And you can actually find that reported link. So I am on the septic tanks portion of our website. If you scroll down and you see a tile here for file a complaint, you can actually click there and you can file the complaint that way.
Take you to it.
Let's see. Creating a need for insurance providers to add an installer category was told my GL as a builder would not overlap. I guess he's saying we need a subcategory for installers.
Subcategory for insurance. Well, okay. So, being insured as an installer, period, for a tier 1 or 2 is your own responsibility. We don't have that in the regulation as something that we have oversight for. Now, for a tier 3, yeah, you got to prove that you've got, insurance that covers the job you're doing under our license. But I think I understand what you're saying is that as my general license, as a builder, doesn't overlap, and that may be true. You may have to have separate policies, just like you may have to have a separate policy for your vacation home. I wouldn't know. I don't have that opportunity to do that. Maybe one day, but if you've got different things not covered under one policy, you might have to have another license covered under something different, specific to it, if you can't get an umbrella that covers each little finger.
Okay, if we have existing dump letters without expiration dates, are they still good to submit if they're from 2021?
Yeah, 2021 is not too far ago. I suggest personally just go ahead and get them renewed for 2025 and be done with it. And that way everything's good. We're all up and approved, and you got something that's current in the file, and you won't have to do it again for quite some time unless you make changes or additions to your license.
Okay, let's see if anything else comes through.
While we're looking there, so Emma has put up the slide with her information on that. If you didn't take a screenshot of it, you can still go back and find that. And I dropped and she put her number in direct email in the chat. I put all my contact information in the chat. There's my direct office line that you can hear going off in the background occasionally here while we're talking. I gave my cell phone, that's in there, my signature, as well as my current email address and my future DES email address. Both of those will work one and the same for the first year of our operation as DES. So you can use either one. I would suggest after July, going ahead and converting over to the david.vaughn@des.sc.gov. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. People do it every day. I don't hide from it. If you don't get me, just leave me a voicemail and I'll return it just as quick as I can. Sometimes I'm calling people back at 6, 7, 7:30. I try not to get past 8 o'clock to return a call at night and pick it back up at 7, 7:30 in the morning. I'm also trying to be conscious because I've woke a few people up before, but I will get back to you as soon as I can, regardless of when I received your message. If I'm away from the office, I try to put it out of office, definitely on my email. My desk phone will turn into an email. So I'll just try to keep checking it. Unless I'm going to be out for an extended amount of time, I'll let you know right then and there when you go to leave that voicemail. Okay. All right. So she's put that stuff back up with my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us if you got specific questions about ePermitting or some general questions like we've been talking the past few minutes. We're glad, we're excited about being able to implement this new program. It's really been a good change. Those that have been working with it already from a public perspective, from a customer, that do it repetitively have expressed good things about it. You know, the first 2 or 3 are kind of tough until you get used to it. And then we're getting a lot of praise for how simple they like the system, how well they like to use it. And we're getting developments every day. We're working on a meeting in the next couple of days about how somebody can drop in 100 applications without having to do them individually, one at a time. We've identified a way to do that. I'm going to make sure that we get the training for it, the step-by-step place for the public to take out there and available quickly. So just because it's there doesn't mean we can't enhance it and make it more efficient and improvise to a degree. But we want to make sure it works well. It also works for the majority of our customers are one at a time, folks. So if you've got accounts that you're working with somebody and you want to take care of things for them, you know, put the application in for them, have it be in your name and in their name as an authorized user. You know, that kind of works out. Both of you are getting the same emails from the system telling you when different things are ready, what stage it's in, when the permits are ready. You can access all the documents there. So I know some folks like to do that, and they'll have a much larger set to search through that Emma was showing you earlier. If not, you can ask to be a licensed, an authorized user on somebody's account if you're going to foster that and put it in for them. That way, when we're issuing that approval to operate and we're checking off that the system is good and you're looking to get paid, you'll get notified the same time that the applicant will, so that both of you are on the same page and you can show them here's the proof that we were approved from the system that we installed on that permit. So, okay. Does anybody else got any questions they'd like to ask us while we're here on the same screen? If not, like I said, you can reach out to us later on via email, via telephone, you know, by courier pigeon, whichever way you want to get it to us. We do not attempt to hide, and we want to be here to help and as a resource for you. Okay. Not seeing very much here. So look, you know, we're at 1 hour and 39 minutes. I really want to thank everybody for your time and your interest and your attention, for staying here so long, hanging out with us, asking some really good questions, being involved, being interactive. We appreciate that. We want your feedback. We want it in the future as well. So we want to keep reaching out and having a little bit different relationship than in the past, a much more cohesive, interactive relationship than just you working with your local, field inspectors. So, keep it up. We appreciate it. And I do want to reiterate one last thing that I've been telling everybody at every one of these presentations regarding your inspectors that you're working with. Most people get to know their inspector like their distant cousin from somewhere else that they have to see. They don't necessarily like them, but they see them, multiple times a year. If one of our inspectors has had an experience with you that you're not quite happy with, if you feel like they overextended themselves, or if they were disrespectful to you or not quite appropriate for the situation, let us know about it. I'm not saying that we've got bad actors there that we've hired, but occasionally there's a situation that gets blown up way out of proportion, and it all boils down to somebody feels like the inspector was a little overzealous and a little bit overprotective of things, and being kind of rough on them. And then we've gotten into enforcement, and we've gotten into a situation that could have been worked out much earlier. I attended an enforcement conference this morning that could have been fixed right on the spot and not wasted anybody's time. So want to make sure that we, even though we're licensed you as a regulator and we're having to check over work and look at things, it's doing our job, but that doesn't mean it has to be a bad relationship. Okay, because I know that decisions we make can affect your pocketbook and your time immediately and sometimes drastically. So we want to help you. We want to work with you. We want to solve problems ahead of time. So if you ever have to make changes to something, call the regional office, get a hold of an inspector, get word out to one, and get permission first. Always get it in writing. So I'm looking down here at my desk. I'm staring at an office phone. I'm staring at 2 computer screens, and I got 2 cell phones. Most every one of you ought to have at least one of these devices. All of our staff have one issued to them. So there's no reason on earth why we can't put something in writing to you through a text message, through a screenshot, through an email. All of that can be done. The phone conversation, writing it down on a piece of cardboard on your end. If you're on a job site, I told somebody this morning, even a piece of drywall, I don't care. Write it down, the conversation, the date and time, so that nobody shows up and says, you altered this permit without permission, you're in violation. We're going to give you a civil penalty through enforcement. So get it in writing. If not, at least document the phone call and who you talked to, what you said and when. Because normally somebody says, I called, I did this, I did that. I said, okay, who did you talk to and when was it? And they get amnesia very, very quick. I wouldn't get amnesia if it was dependent on a $1,000 penalty I was fixing to have to pay. So I want to reiterate that. Make sure when you're working with our inspectors and you need to make changes, I'm not talking about very minor changes, a shift of 5 feet, 6, 7 feet, tank over here a little bit. If it's the opposite side of the house, needs to go deeper, need to move a drain line, those types of things. Get permission first. The regulation requires it. It also says that you're supposed to have the system in an exposed condition for us to inspect. Make sure you adhere to that. If you need portions of it covered up to get the installation completed, call and talk to them. Say, hey, I need to do this. Is it okay? This line's going to go a little bit deeper if I continue the way it's drawn up. Is that, appropriate? And make sure you're covering yourself so that we don't get out there into that situation. Okay. Sorry, just wanted to give that little spiel there, dealing from an enforcement perspective, because we've got more enforcement cases now than we ever had before. And our goal would be to have as little enforcement cases as possible with the most amount of compliance possible as well. Okay. So there's one general question thrown in there. Resource, is there a resource somewhere who sells drain pipes in easy flow in the Greenville Pickens area? Reach out to Infiltrator Company. Your regional rep is Brett Fowler with Infiltrator. He actually used to work for us and retired from the agency a little over a year ago, and that would be the appropriate person. So probably infiltrator.com, contact us, reach out to your regional rep, and they can tell you every distributor that's allowed to sell their product in the state. How enforcement be handled going forward? same way it has been. You know, we've still got inspectors out there doing their job. They issue notices of noncompliance. Sometimes those are just to document the situation. Other times they graduate to a referral to enforcement, and then they have a process that they go through. Most of the time it's, you know, let's come in and have a conference or, you know, teleconference, something to give you an opportunity to talk through the situation, bring any other facts to the case that you have that are pertinent, your perspective, and then go from there for what next steps there are to follow. Good question there about the self-inspection forms. So real quick, Emma, you want to reach over to that self-inspection form and let them see how to navigate to it. We recently changed this form to a generalized final inspection form that you would fill out just as I would fill out if I came to do a final inspection with you. And there's a block down in the bottom right that allows you to check off whether you did it. So if you go to our web page here, scroll to the bottom of the page currently, and under Tools, Forms, and Resources, you go to the bottom at Regulation, Forms, and Fact Sheets, and click that. And then here on the left, about halfway down, you see for septic installers. And there's a final inspection form to click on. You can download it here whenever you like, or you can download it, make copies of it. Just make sure you check here for changes. In the future, this is going to be a much more prominent site for you folks, as we're going to have an installers page dedicated instead of you having to go down through specific forms to find it. But this, as of March the 15th, is the only form that we're going to allow to be submitted for a final installation. And it's the same thing that we do. The engineers submit as-built drawings, but ePermitting produces its own approval to operate page, which is different from this. It's actually signatures on it and permissions. The demographics of the site in the upper couple of rows there are the same in that approval to operate, but it's a little bit more consistent. It's all coming out of ePermitting. But here, this is a consistent way of documenting that system installation. Everything can be done on the left that's pertinent to the system, and you can do a sketch in that big open area on the right now instead of a little tiny window halfway down the page. So we hope that this was an improvement, gives you more flexibility, more ways to document things, give you more room to put a neater, more scaled drawing of what you've done, doing a self-inspection. Emma, if you scroll up a little more, you can see down there inspected by who. You need to put your signature there and say installer, or I would put mine and department staff. And any comments that you had, we shrunk that to a small box because there were so few comments, but there may be something off the wall that you need to write in there that you want to document. Your printed name goes in that first line, your license number, sign it on the next line beneath and date it. And then you'll see where we put in bolded, that's not the approval. That's the form to submit to us for review and approval. Some counties still want a copy of this to put in with that approval to operate so that they got it on file when somebody's looking for it, however many years from now. We have our own retention schedule internally. This will be in ePermitting so that when that button is punched, you, Joe Public, anybody could go in here and search for a different indicator for a site, whether that's an address, a tax map number, property identification number, subdivision, block, lot number, any of those factors, and try to find a permit that was issued and installed for the site. All right. So I think we're down to where does the drain line installation fall?
Hey, David, before you move on to that, on this form, I just wanted to let everybody know, Miss Christy Watkins has been working on making a fillable PDF version of this form. So for those of y'all that may want to take this and use it on like a tablet or something in the field, and you can actually type this information in, soon enough, that will be available on our website so that y'all can download that fillable PDF version.
From the same location that this form was just selected that you saw. So, you know, where did this drain line installation fall? So here, let's make sure I'm doing that correctly. The sketch goes into the open area above the cursor, and the actual lines down there where it says trench information, You write down which drain line number, how long it is, and your elevation grades there. If you have more trenches than blanks, you can write them over to the right there beside them. I can't tell you when these inspections will be required to be submitted through ePermitting, but when we turn that functionality on, we'll let everybody know that it's ready, and we'll either require it all or none, likely, instead of having different ways to do these types of things. So we just want to give it a good 6 months, let everybody get in and get comfortable. Some of you will be comfortable much, much quicker than that. Others, we want to make sure that we don't cause chaos and havoc, that we kind of do things from a step-by-step gradual basis. Okay, anybody else got a question here? So any other questions? Like I said, well, there we go. Let's do this one. When do the pump trucks have to be inspected by? When you're being licensed and issued a license, they do it initially. And then, like I said, we're supposed to be doing those quarterly checks. So if you haven't been checked in quite a while, don't worry about it. We'll contact you and let you know, and then set up a schedule for it. We've actually got another person that's going to be in charge of the program from a central office perspective and administering that across the state, enhancing databases, working through ePermitting, and looking at when inspections are due so that we can work through staffing levels that are able to do that. Remind them of when inspections are coming up. It can remind you that something's coming up, unless we have to do an unannounced inspection due to a complaint basis or something of that nature. If you're adding a vehicle or getting a new license, at that time is the appropriate time to come to us before you put it into operation, to have it inspected initially. That way we've documented it and covered it. Okay. So if you're licensed for one and you got 3, you need to have initial inspections done on the other 2 before putting them into operation. Otherwise, you're considered an unlicensed unit out there in operation. We don't want that. Well drilling license, is that handled by DHEC? It certainly is, through our private well program. You can research that through the Bureau of Water on our website, and well drilling, licensing. You got it. Oh, great. Thank you for this interaction. It's fantastic. I appreciate it very much. I'd rather spend time now than, when you got a problem or something like that occurring. Doesn't cost a dime now.
David, did you want me to answer the question on submitting the self-inspections through ePermitting?
Well, I thought I kind of did, but
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, as of right now, no, we are not accepting those through the database. So you'll still follow the same process, contacting your local office to get that final scheduled. And if it is a self-inspection, you'll still submit that to the local office, that local inspector right now. Hopefully, eventually we get there to where y'all are submitting them through the database, but we're just not quite there yet. Like David said, we want to crawl before we walk. So.
And we don't expect everybody to be experts the first month with the system. We've got staff that have been doing it for over a year now, and we're still working to keep them on the right path and make sure that they're staying within the lanes that they're supposed to be operating every week. So don't worry if it seems intimidating. It is slightly until you get in there, you get to working with it and get a routine down. And the best thing is, all you have to do is identify somebody in your business that can do it and let it lay on their responsibility. No, we're not going to inspect the trucks on the weekends. That's a good question, but we have to do it during working hours, Monday through Friday, and not on a state holiday. So it's got to be the hours that we're open, not just the ones that you are, but it's a good question. You still operate on the weekends. Just make sure that most facilities aren't open on the weekends. So if you're, getting some jobs and piling up things, that you've got an approved method of storage on your site facility so you can take it and get it disposed of properly. Okay. All right, well, let's finish ahead of time, at least give you 5 more minutes here. Thank you all for coming, very much so. We appreciate it. Sorry we can't offer CEUs for today's training, but we can do you one good thing. We won't charge you a dime for attending the training today. So that's one break we can give. And we'll do our best to try to offer things in the future at a no-cost rate as well. So thank you. This won't be our last conversation. We'll have some more. We'll keep in touch with you. We'll email you. We'll make sure we're updating our website and do everything in our power to make sure we've tried to get you prepared as much as possible before going into this new phase of electronic world for us. So thank you all for attending. We appreciate your time, your attention. Give us a holler if you need us. We appreciate it very much. Thank you for what you do, and we look forward to working with you even closer in the future. All right, y'all have a wonderful rest of your week and a good holiday next week.